Hello and welcome to Wait, It Gets Better, the improvisational storytelling podcast, where we bring you a story every week and every week without fail. Hi, it's us, your story messenger, here to deliver your story. I'm, of course, Levi.
I'm Reed.
And I'm Seth.
And we're here, like I said, to tell you a story. Reed, do you want to do a quick recap since you listened to the episode today?
Okay, do we have a title for this one?
Yes, it is Market Day Robots.
Market Day Robots. Okay, well, I was indisposed last week, so I listened to what Seth and Levi began to create. Seth's story element was Magic System, and it was based on, it turns out that there was a card from a Magic the Gathering card that fell out of Seth's Bible, and there was some speculation of what that might mean. But but the whole idea of cards carrying, well, we are familiar with the tarot cards, of course, and all this, but in any case, the idea that you had cards that were professionally produced, they are made out of special materials,
right?
Like, for example, like our currency, the card stock that was used and the paints and the things that were involved in making these cards were all very protected, shall we say, proprietary processes and everything. So there weren't just an unlimited number of cards out there. It wasn't just anybody just producing cards.
Right.
But these cards that were used, like for a card game, some of them would be so to speak charged with power to be used in different instances that would lend itself to use of magic. And they talked about like different special events, like big deals, like tomorrow we're going to have a big eclipse, for example. A big eclipse might charge a specific card or a specific set of cards, or a volcano or a hurricane, or
right,
these kinds of things. And in any case, so these cards with power were available to be used. Like a blue moon was another one. Just interesting astronomical or environmental phenomenon
right.
could charge these cards, or in some cases like like a nuclear bomb explosion.
Right,
for example.
Right.
Okay, so that was basically the idea of the magic system that was in place. And we're looking at kind of a post-apocalyptic situation here. Levi had the economic system. And one of the things that was kind of left over throughout the earth, there was exactly 144,000 androids. They were tall, like 10 feet tall and almost as wide. And they were kind of semi-human in form, but they were virtually indestructible. You couldn't attack them. The weapons that were available weren't useful against them. And they were benign. They weren't going around and like committing mayhem and killing people and stuff like that.
Right.
They were benevolent, but they were kind of a sun up to sundown kind of a thing, and they would walk the earth and they would perform various duties and whatnot. And as far as the economic system, people could bring things to these androids and trade with them. Like, for example, one of the things that Levi brought up is that they would bring a chunk of concrete, and it would give back the formula of how to make concrete. So here in this post-apocalyptic world, as people were trying to rebuild, they would go to these androids, and at sundown, they would sort of just like stop where they were and become kind of like a kiosk where you could come and do commerce with them.
Yep.
Is that kind of a fair? Do you guys want to add something to that kind of?
Well, the picture I had in my mind was the robot from Star Wars Rogue One, the K2SO. So kind of like a long arm, gangly, sort of thing.
Right.
Here, Reed, like I'm showing you a picture. I don't know if you remember this guy from Rogue One, but yeah, kind of like long arm, gangly.
Oh yeah, right.
And then certain things that would happen to them, you'd be able to tell that it was the same one. Like one of them has like an arm that's painted red, or a dent in its head in a specific place, or a piece of chalk writing on it,
Right.
And they're walking in predetermined paths.
Yes.
Which is kind of what's created sort of modern systems for roads now, right, because they've been walking in these paths for now however many years since the fall. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, you pretty much got it all.
Okay. The the story element that I was supposed to have ready for last week, I didn't. I listened to this before I came up with it, which is a lot more fun. The prophecy is this: the card of unintended consequences. That's the title of the prophecy, and it is really just a rumor or a myth, so to speak. It's kind of a story retold around a campfire, as the old ones tell the young ones, about how things used to be, and of the
Right.
great catastrophe.
Right.
And the profligate use of, during the time, the great trouble, the profligate use of these magically powered cards tended to produce a cascade of unforeseen action, unforeseen. I can't come up with the word, but sorry. I want to say consequences, but just reactions. There are different things that would happen. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And these would spawn kind of ever more spectacular events, and then charging ever more powerful magic cards. So it became, like I say, a cascading effect, which ended up pretty much the destruction of civilization as we knew it. And
Right.
and it's kind of this is in the prophecy, or in the myth, or in the story of the prophecy. It's said that the card, the card of unintended consequences can predict and forestall the unintended consequences. So to make the use of the cards safe again. And this secret card will be found in an ancient crypt called Seth's Bible.
Love it. One thing about the recap is there was some history set up that there was a war between AI and humans.
Oh yeah, I forgot that part.
And in an attempt to sort of try out this new science, they made this kind of reaction happen in the desert, this sort of atmospheric reaction to sort of simulate a complex algorithm, but it sort of started to spread around the world. And when the AI looked at it, they didn't understand what it was. And so as part of that, the robots and any AI that survive do not recognize the cards, kind of like in 100% Lunar Boy, where the robots just say there's no such thing as a fourth primary color.
Right.
In that same way, they just sort of, they can't recognize it. They sort of quantify it by its results. So I just wanted to insert that. So you had prophecy. Seth, what story element did you have?
I had hero.
Oh, do you want to do the hero next? Or I have wise old woman, so I'm ready to go if you're not.
Okay, I'll do the hero because it'll tie into a little bit of a character we started building last week.
Great.
And I think in it, knowing no one had a unique artifact, I think one of the things with him will bring in part of the unique artifact.
Yeah, do it.
Okay, so the character from last week, I was kind of starting to make a wise old man figure. Guy, he's, really into these cards, charging them up. He found that either he's trying to test out that either these robots are charging the cards.
Yeah.
Or what the connection is. He's kind of like a bit of a scientist, a mad scientist kind of guy. And he's, been around for a long time. My guess is that he's probably extending his life through special use of these cards.
Right.
If anyone's familiar with the magic cards, there's different, enchants or things that will add life, right?
Right, yeah.
And so I think he's found a way to charge some cards like that then he can use to keep extending his life.
Okay.
So he's been around for a while. But one of the other things that he's designed, also his name is Bartholomew Bar John. For anyone that doesn't know, Bar would be like an old way to say the son of.
Okay, so the son of John.
So the son of John. And so a lot of times, people that know him might just call him Bar because Bartholomew is a long name. And, they kind of knew him as the son of John. So it kind of goes by Bar, but that would be kind of his full name would be Bartholomew. But
I kind of like that Bar John. Sorry.
And then the thing one of the things that he's created, which is going to be kind of like a unique artifact. Now it's been years since I've seen any Yu-Gi-Oh stuff, but I know like they had like it was like the deck holder that would go on their arm, right?
Yeah.
So he's got that, and so now Levi, hopefully you'll like this, because I did listen to the first book in the Dark Tower series, so the Gunslinger, right?
Yeah.
So here you go, one of my first conscious, things kind of based on Dark Tower series for you.
Excellent. I'm ready for it.
So he's created these like decks, right? These deck kind of machines that you can wear on the arm, and then you would preload them, with different sets, right? And so he's got one that he'll wear on one hand that'll be kind of like his shield. It'll be kind of like the things that he'll do to like either, play on himself, buff, stop an attack, reactionary kind of stuff. And then the other one, with his, gun hand, he's got the one set up with the different, sets to fling out and use, more of his attacks or, aggressive.
Yeah, more offensively.
Right? And so what he's done over the years is he's trained gunslingers to kind of go about and help him with his kind of research.
Yeah.
But then he's made these for him. So there's kind of like probably every once in a while, there's probably not tons of them, but they're out there, right? Just kind of, keeping the piece from the hip kind of idea.
And collecting information for him.
And then, they'll kind of rendezvous or pass information. Because again, one of the things he would do is he'd find a way to basically sneak different, packages of stuff on these robots. Because then if he has like some cards stuck on them, and they go through different areas with earthquakes or an eclipse or something like that, they'll come back in a year's time and, be charged up, right? So he's kind of got a system to, keep these cards charged or to charge new ones, or in this case, to pass the information along to kind of his, entourage of, apprentice, or as it would be the gunslingers.
That's cool.
And so I think, that'll be our hero character.
So I think that so this story is going to take place in this town, right? And I think that it's kind of appropriate. My brain is saying that this is the right way for the story to go, considering that tomorrow there will be an eclipse.
Yeah, they'll hear this.
We're kind of dating this episode a little bit, but tomorrow's the 8th of April, and so there's going to be an eclipse. I think that is what's coming up.
Okay.
In this story is an eclipse is coming. And there's sort of a lot of debate as to what or when or, what's going to happen, how's this going to work or whatever, what crazy things are going to be released or not released. And because Bar is in this town, maybe it's starting to get people are starting to kind of stream into the town to get his sort of expert opinion, but also, to buy things from him, because he's kind of like, isn't he kind of like an expert in these things?
Yeah, I mean, again, he's been around, so he is kind of like the wise old man character as well.
Right.
Probably a lot of people know him as he travels around. He's probably got several labs, or like maybe this town is where his main kind of headquarters is. Headquarters is.
Yeah.
And, but they know that he's, knowledgeable about, some of the old ways, some of this old magic. Now, again, one of the fun things, bringing up like the old things. So I think we brought this up last time, and I really like this. I thought it was a really funny thing from last time. Is there's like a clerical class going about, and so you have obviously these robots serve to function, but most people have, let's say, forgotten the the language.
Right.
But like you can kind of come in and do the input, but being they were the AI or the robotic voice, this clerical class is kind of heightened, like the importance of it, and so they've learned it would be the holy tongue, which is really just like robot talk, but it's also like robot talk in a language that like no one speaks anymore. Kind of like in WALL-E, where all the robots, they kind of spoke English, but it was like an electronic,
modulated. Yeah, it was kind of like a modulated
thing. So they'd be like, oh, our town or our village needs seeds, so the holy man must come forth and speak the holy tongue to ask the robot for seeds, right? And we need seeds, but of course, like no one knows that he's like speaking a weird form of English or whatever.
Yeah, he's just saying bean seeds.
Yeah. And I thought that was like a funny thing.
Yeah.
As far as like this kind of mock clerical class, but they've kind of learned the old tongue, or how to, operate, and they've kind of made it this like holy thing, almost probably like the way Latin is. It was what the Romans spoke, and so like maybe, when everybody's speaking Latin, maybe they're getting it right, or maybe it kind of sounds like that. That's kind of what I was thinking with it. But
So I have this picture of a town that's kind of up on a hill, maybe more up in the mountains even. And one of the things that Barr operates, what part of his operation is a observatory, right? With a telescope, a viewing apparatus. And people are coming from sort of all around to watch, people are coming from all around because it's kind of like a festival, but there are rich and powerful people coming from all around to be able to go up into the observatory and look at the solar eclipse through the telescope. And I have this kind of idea that maybe something's going to happen, right? Like the sun is going to be obscured at a certain time, and therefore people are going to see something crazy, and that's what's going to kind of kick off. Either that'll be the culmination of the story or that'll be the beginning of the story. I don't know. But the wise old woman, her name is Sophia. She's very old. She's not keeping herself alive with cards, mostly because she can't stand the sight of cards. And that's not because she hates them, but because she possesses a very unique gift in which they seem to sort of glow and pulse. So she is a storm watcher. She is a weather predictor. She can tell when great catastrophic atmospheric phenomenon is about to take place. Because she can see this, she has basically been on I don't know what you'd call it, not a pilgrimage, but she has basically been assigned to the top of this tower at sort of the northern part of this country, where she has been like watching over the entire country and then sending missives and, writing letters to like, there's a storm coming over in this place, and then sending information over there. And, there's something brewing over in here. And sometimes, most of the time, she can't see something before it happens, but she can typically see something that something is growing before anyone else can see it. And she has been called to come to this town to look at, well, she's old, not close to death, but past a point of being able to like be sharp all through the night and, just kind of keep a 24-hour watch. And so her great granddaughter is now old enough. And this is also sort of a coming of age. This is the village she's from. And she's attending this as sort of a coming of age thing for her daughter, her great granddaughter, and trying to find some way to like pass off wisdom to her, because now her great granddaughter is going to, take the watch now. And so she's mostly blind to the normal world now, but she can see the cards shining in people's pockets, breast pockets. Some things can stop it. Tin, silver, one other thing that's weird or interesting. I don't know. Someone read, what's a random element?
Like either like mahogany wood.
Element like radium?
Yeah. Mahogany wood is fine. I was thinking some material that's weird and interesting, not just like lead, because lead is like ubiquitous with being able to block things, but I want this power to be something different. Anyways, so she sort of, in her years of being this watcher and dealing with, warlords and royalty and all kinds of people who want to use her she's gotten up sort of a Bene Gesserit kind of visage. Nothing seems to bother her. She seems to be 3 steps ahead of everyone. She can tell because she's mostly blind, but now the cards are what illuminates things for her.
Right.
So like Barr is, she can see right through him, right? If he tries to deceive her about something, if he tries to hide some experiment he's doing, it's not going to happen. She has been watching how the energy reacts. He shows them a machine and he says that it's going to be used to blah, 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 blah. Give everyone running. I'm not saying he's a liar, but maybe he's an embellisher. Give everyone clean running water. And she looks at it and she's like, this isn't sustainable. And so she makes some cutting comment, that seems kind of mean maybe, but is also, when it comes to this power, you can't deceive her. And so she also knows what Barr suspects, which is that the robots are in some way powered by this reaction.
Right.
But she doesn't really feel the need to tell him because, what is he going to do? Is he going to start arresting them? Is he going to start breaking them? Is he going to, anyways, so that's who she is. And she's been kind of called. That's why the tower is allowed to be left empty, because this is such a great thing. And because the idea being, well, she'll be on top of a mountain in the mountain village anyway, so she'll be able to like keep an eye on it. And we've had like a lot of peace recently, the reactions, the crazy atmospheric. Sophia hasn't really done anything in a couple of years, and yeah, we're sending her great-great-granddaughter to watch it. But like all of the clans or various countries, micro nations around here, they pay like a significant sum to the tower to keep it up, to, keep runners on hand all the time, to whatever. And people are kind of like starting to be lulled into a sense that the chain reaction, the chain reactions of unintended consequences of just a couple of years ago, when people were using cards that were like reshaping the world because of their like catastrophic chain reactions, people have already started to kind of say that was like then.
Yeah.
We are refined people now.
Yeah.
I have this idea that each country kind of has its quote unquote nuclear arsenal, of like 10 cards.
Yeah.
It's like each one has 10 cards, and they're like constantly checking each other's cards, sending people to look at each other's cards.
Yeah. They get like send a guy in like a super insulated armored suit to
Right.
Descend into a volcano to have his like a set of cards charged up,
Or you you get sent to this other country, and you go down in their bunker and look at and count their cards and check the power levels and make sure that these weren't, fakes or more recently updated. Like what we did to Russia, and what Russia quote unquote did to us and to China, with the nuclear energy, with the nuclear weapons, kind of like,
right.
We got to look at each other's stockpile to make sure that no one's stockpile is too big,
Yeah.
Just in case we need to nuke each other. That same sort of thing being true. Anyways, that's the wise old woman.
Cool. Sophia and Bartholomew.
Yeah. So Bar is the hero, right?
Yeah.
And were you originally thinking he was the wise? I remember yet last time you were thinking he was the wise old man, but
it was just someone that we were starting to create, and then I just decided to use him as a
So where in the world is this?
New Mexico.
New Mexico. Okay. I was trying to think of somewhere.
They figure that it's probably geologically somewhere around where Arizona and Utah meet, or what they say might have been there. But, for all intents and purposes, they call this New Mexico.
Yeah, but they don't even know what that means.
Right. So it would have been something that was passed out on. That was just the first thing that popped in my head.
So that works. Utah and Arizona meet. Absolutely.
Which I think doesn't, maybe I'm getting it wrong. Newton. No, I think that's north. I was thinking like the four corners.
Utah and New Mexico, they meet. They're just corner to corner with each other.
Utah's directly north of Arizona, right?
No, yes. So
I think that's the four corners is
New
where
Mexico's here.
New Mexico, Arizona,
and Utah's here.
And Utah and Colorado all meet in the one corner.
Yeah. So maybe that corner is where let's see.
I would say a lot of like geology would be changed. I'm just saying that's the first thing that popped into my head. And then just like saying like down to the old stories, they just know that it was New Mexico, but in the old time it's where, as they say, Arizona and Utah, came together, which is also where New Mexico comes together with them as well, I think.
Except it's not pronounced Utah. Everyone knows it's pronounced Utah. Come on.
Unte.
Unte. So close to the corner of where they meet is a place called Pastor's Peak. So we could say that is the mountain where the mountaintop where this observatory is. That's great. So we still don't have like a bad guy. Or what do you guys think is going to happen when the eclipse happens? Do we want to make that closer to the beginning of the story, or do we want to make that the culmination of the story?
I think maybe not one villain, but have you guys ever seen, oh goodness, it's I think Russell Crowe is in it. It's like they have like a quick draw competition where like winner kills all kind of thing.
Oh, yeah. I seem to remember something like that.
I think it's like The Quick and the Dead or something.
Didn't Sharon Stone play a female gunslinger in that?
Yeah.
I think so. I want to say it's like something almost, not that there has to be like, this big like competition, but I think what it is like, all these other people. This is where like either like a solar eclipse and then maybe something else is happening. And so they've got all these like, nefarious characters, of all kinds. And so I would say that what's his name? A bunch of his apprentices have come back. And so he's got like a little posse of his own. And like they're kind of like trying to keep the peace. And it's like everyone's got their like gangs all with like their cards charged. Because this is like a huge event, right? This is like the epicenter of the eclipse. And so you got all these like people trying to charge their cards, trying to vie for power, take out, all this stuff. And so I think maybe later on it's like it'd be like a shootout at the OK Corral or something.
Yeah.
Where it's just like there's like probably like 10 or 12 different like gang factions that are all making like deals with each other, but they're all ready to stab each other in the back because it's like everybody's here, right? Every, goon that wants to, make a name for himself, supercharge a bunch of cards, take out a rival gang, present themselves as kind of, dominant. So you've got, I would say maybe that's what our villains could be. So maybe not one particular, but just kind of like a conglomeration of.
Yeah, I was thinking something kind of like part of me was thinking something like the thread from the Anne McCaffrey books, where like
Oh, yeah.
every couple of years this thing happens and something crazy happens, whether that's every time there's an eclipse.
Yeah.
The back of the quote unquote dark side of the moon, which is covering the sun, years, in eons past, has maybe that's where the AI are, is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Right? So the AI left the Earth in most cases. There are still some, and they're now on the moon. But every time there's something about the eclipse allows them to break through whatever this atmospheric barrier that they don't understand and come to the Earth.
Yeah.
Right? And so, Seth, have you read Anne McCaffrey's Dragon Riders of Pern?
Yeah.
No, I've got a bunch
Quest.
of them from
Yeah.
the library book sales, but
it's this really
haven't read 'em
interesting
yet.
concept of like there's people on this planet and they can ride with dragons, and the whole thing is that it's like what, every couple hundred years?
Yeah, every couple hundred years, there's an erratic,
there's a
elliptical planet that comes within a certain cuts through the orbits of the different planets in the solar system, and it comes close enough, like every 200 years, and these spores spin off and enter the atmosphere of Pern, and they become these spores. When they're hit with the atmosphere, then they grow into these thread-like, kind of like worm-like things, but they're very caustic. Their biochemical makeup is such that they devour anything, any life form, any carbon-based life form, any plant or animal. If they land on you, they'll just burn through your arm, for example.
Yeah, so the dragons, the dragons have been kind of doing this, but they partner with the dragons, and the dragons
flame them with their fire breath.
Yeah, well, they have to like eat a type of rock.
Yeah.
And then they basically, and this is just like a cycle that just happens. This is just what happens. So that's kind of what I'm thinking is that everyone is sort of ready.
Yeah.
And the thing is that once this thing is done, it takes but like a couple of months before the politicians start saying there's a lot of evidence to suggest that that's the last time that's ever going to happen.
Yeah.
And people, like, after they've been through a horrible thing, they want to believe it. But then the closer it gets, the less sure everyone gets.
Right.
And so they're all kind of prepared for the worst. So this is kind of like festival / like getting ready for something terrible to happen.
Right.
That's what I'm kind of thinking. And so there's all these people vying for power, but also wanting to charge their cards because this crazy thing's about to happen. I'm just trying to think of what it is that happens. Part of me thinks that with the solar eclipse, the AI can finally break through the atmosphere. And so it's like all along the path of totality, the AI are like dropping down dropships,
Okay.
Just dropping dropships. And every time they're different, every time they're weirder and different. But what do you guys think of that concept?
Well, I'm thinking one of the things that could be, so if it's tied to an eclipse, perhaps like the top of the moon has been blown off, from one of the old wars.
Yeah.
For some reason. And so when the eclipse happens, I'm just imagining the eclipse with then like another like little dip out of like the top of it, where they've like, let's say they tried to like, nuke the top of the moon to,
Right.
re-inhabit life. Maybe it wasn't from one of the wars, but it actually like blew the top of like the crust off, and because there's no atmosphere, it just kind of vaporized into space or whatever. And so there's like a huge crater that actually, instead of being on the face, is blown through like the whole thing. So there's like a cup shape off the top. And because I think one of the things they were using to defeat the AI was some of the power behind the natural phenomenon. What you've got is a huge supercharged thing with the phenomenon, but a chunk of it missing, which then ultimately is like a glitch in that phenomenon, and that gives the AI like that opportunity to come back in through that.
Ooh.
I don't know, what do you call it, quantum window that's actually not eclipsing. That
Oh,
makes
okay.
sense, right? So
So
the phenomenon of the eclipse would be a total eclipse, right? And it's, complete in totality. But with the top of the moon blown off, there's a cup of it missing, and so it's like, like a, I don't know, like, the old, I don't want to say old, but discs, and they have a scratch on it, and it's kind of like, or like the old vinyl, and they'd have a bump, and it would like bump back, so it's like that glitch where like it can't really move forward, but it is
Right.
plain, but it like, and so it taking the, the magical power of the eclipse happening, there's a chunk of it missing, and so in its total state of eclipse, part of it's missing, and so there's a slight glitch in it where it might be one of the more powerful things, but because of that hole, it gives them an opportunity to basically come from the backside of the moon and re-enter through that glitch in the phenomenon.
Yeah, okay.
If that makes sense, unless you got a different idea.
No, I kind of like that. Just as a bit of a way for it to sort of sneak in.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
What is the relationship between these kind of androids? The 144,000. What is the relationship between them and the AI system that had been controlling civilization prior to the upheaval?
My thought process was that it is the androids on the Earth are doing the last thing that they were told to do.
Right.
And when the drop ships land, they would be basically sort of taken in and required to give a report. And they're old enough now that they know it's not worth like turning them against the people.
Right.
It's kind of better just to let them stay as sort of information gatherers.
Right.
Because there's 144,000 of them, but there's still several billion people.
Yeah.
So even if they said, here, an army of 144,000, go and do this thing, it would take like a year before they'd all be dead, and then their source of like total world recon would be gone.
Right.
So it's kind of like this thing where it's like so old now that I'm not even going to bother. I'll get your report from you, but I'm not even going to bother trying to like turn you into anything.
Right.
And maybe also they can't because it's The Quick and the Dead is the name of that movie with Russell Crowe. There's some sort of fabrication built into these original androids where they aren't necessarily completely aggressive to humans.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to figure out why they're aggressive to humans, because I don't like the idea that there's just AI.
Right.
And the AI have to turn bad.
So I know we talked about maybe they were golems, a type of golem. Maybe that's why they don't recognize the card.
Okay.
Is they are. There's one of the other things. I don't know if you remember watching Cashahern, not the anime, but that live action movie.
I don't remember.
Anyways, it's like set in like a dystopian future, but anyways, there was like these characters in there. They basically go back and they find like the Europa like old storehouses of all like the robots, and they reuse them.
Yeah.
For their own new war or whatever. That came to mind the other day. I was like, oh, okay, that would be a neat idea if some character at some point or someone, after the AI were gone, they found these supply robots or whatever they were, but now they're all dysfunctional, and then use the cards to basically golemize them as resuppliers of, because maybe they were just supposed to be like the resuppliers for the AI, right? So not necessarily combative, but they were, basically the on-tracked, resupply line.
Right.
But then someone found the warehouse of them, like after, like, the bombs went up, and everything's in disarray, and, they, took shelter, and they find this, and maybe these people are long gone now, but, then use these cards to create a golem out of them.
So you're saying just the ones that are on the Earth are the golems?
Yeah.
That's an idea. But why do the AIs on the moon? What was the original decision that we don't like you? Because if you remember in Terminator, it was really interesting. Like, do you know why the Skynet went rogue? So from what I understand is in the movie they made Skynet, which was the sort of the defense architecture, and they released it and it started to permeate the internet. And then they started to notice that they were under quote unquote attack. So then they sicked Skynet on it. Skynet said, wait, that's me. You're telling me to attack myself. You're the enemy. Done.
Yeah.
So it could have been something as simple as that.
Yeah.
You know, something as simple as we created something really powerful and then we told it to protect us, and then it reinterpreted that as protect us from you. And then it's like, well, to protect you from me, I am the enemy. You're telling me I need to destroy myself. Therefore, you're the enemy because I've been told also to protect myself. And so it just kind of flipped.
Right.
So, yeah, those are some fun ideas. Let's stop at this point and we'll draw some more story elements and then finish it up next week. How does that sound?
Sounds great.
Good.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for this, joining us for this episode of Wait It Gets Better. If you liked it, let us know. Add us on Twitter at @GetsBetterCast or send us an email at waititgetsbettercast@gmail.com. If you didn't like this episode, let us know. I'm happy to hear it. And we will see you guys next time when it gets better after you wait.